lights coming from windows, what looked like the front. And underneath it, it had this big shiny silvery light which looked like it was, you know, spinning around. While watching this thing for 4 minutes, it took off very, very slowly in a southwest direction, about 400 to 500 meters, and stopped and hovered again. We watched it for about another minute, and then we packed them and took off.
Do you think that looks like a Hollywood movie? Or is what they're saying so unbelievable? Star Wars, the film that is likely to make more money than any other in history, is only letting us get out of the observer's seat and into the pilot's. That, after all, is where we'd all like to be.
Okay, stay sharp.
Here they come.
Don't worry. You'll hold together. Baby, hold together.
I got him!
Great, Jim! Don't get cocky!
There's still two more of them out there.
None of man's fantasies of evil can compare with the reality of Jaws. This is the extraordinary motion picture version of the best-selling novel, Jaws.
That's a 20-footer.
25. 3 tons on them.
Hurry up, he's coming straight for us. Don't screw it up now.
Don't wait for me. Now! Shoot!
Give him room, Brody.
I can't. He's trying to run. Oh!
Before Star Wars, Jaws grossed more money at the box office than any other film. At an exclusive interview in Hollywood, its director, Steven Spielberg, told us that while he was up to his neck in water filming Jaws, he was really thinking of his next film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, a film concerned with UFOs.
Just after Jaws finished, I came back and I wanted to relate to dry land, and I also wanted to think about Close Encounters, so I went out to Pear Blossom, which is the desert near Mojave. There's nothing around for miles, and if you want to watch the cosmos, that's the place to stand and do it. I mean, you feel like a grain of salt, and the stars are so vast. I mean, it's almost like looking down at the sky because the sky surrounds you. It's an amazing planetarium show. And I went out there, and I parked my car, turned the lights out, and sat on the roof, and looked up at the sky, and said to myself, if something comes down here right now and lands on the road, and an opening appears, would I get on and take a ride? And I thought about it, and I looked up at the sky, and I got very, very nervous because I realized that I wouldn't get on and take a ride. As a matter of fact, I was getting so nervous by embracing and romancing that thought that I got back in my car and I drove back to Los Angeles. I was terrified.
Most people think the interest in UFOs is limited to a few cranks. In fact, there are thousands of intelligent people who get together at international conferences all over the world to study them. We visited one at Chicago to interview the man who for 20 years was head of the U.S. Air Force top security investigation into UFOs, Dr. Alan Hynek.
It's particularly heartening to me to see the rise of interest among scientists, and particularly astronomers, in the UFO problem. So it has often been said that, well, why don't astronomers see UFOs? As a matter of fact, they do. In a very recent report by Professor Sturrock of Stanford University, who queried all the members of the American Astronomical Society, found that 53% of those who responded said that, in their opinion, the UFO problem was worthy of scientific study. And what is more, 64 of the astronomers who responded gave what would be called UFO reports, objects, sightings that they personally had made at their observatories frequently, which to them was unexplained.
One of the most important findings that has been made about this phenomenon is that it is global in scope. In other words, it doesn't belong to the French or the Americans or the British. There have been waves of sightings, usually lasting about a few weeks or a month and a half, over in very concentrated fashions in certain areas of the world. There have been such waves in Western Europe in 1954, for example. In this country in 1947, we know of waves in the Soviet Union, in China, in Australia, especially in Western Australia. And what is typical about these waves is that the people from all these different cultures around the world are describing the same thing in their own terms. What they are describing is an object that seems to be able to maneuver, it seems to be a technology, it seems to come to the ground and leave traces. And there have been rings especially that have been found, burned circles that have been found very commonly in Australia that are absolutely identical to things that have been catalogued in this country, in France. There is now a catalogue of such traces that encompasses more than 1,000 sightings.
An ordinary man in an ordinary street in America. But this man started the 1947 wave of sightings that swept the world when he claimed to have seen from his mountain rescue plane 9 disc-like objects, roughly 45 miles away, flying at a speed of approximately 1,500 miles per hour near Mount Rainier, Oregon. The date? June 24, 1947. Later, when asked by a reporter to describe how they flew, Arnold said their motion was like saucers skipping over water. In the papers the next day, the world first saw the term flying saucer. On June 24, 1977, 30 years to the day after he first sighted them, Ken Arnold consented to speak to us. He had refused to make any public statements for the last 5 years. It's easy to see that after 30 years, he's still angry at the disbelief.
All right, here we've seen something, I've seen something, hundreds of pilots have seen something in the skies. We have dutifully reported these things. And we have to have 15 million witnesses before anybody's going to look into the problem seriously? Boy, this is utterly fantastic. This is more fantastic than flying saucers or people from Venus or anything, as far as I'm concerned.
Arnold's sighting amazed many people, but none more than publisher Ray Palmer.
Kenneth Arnold fits into it. This is his 30th anniversary. And strangely enough, it's my 33rd, because I knew about flying saucers 3 years before Kenneth Arnold made his first sighting.
In the middle 40s, a man called William Shaver had written to Palmer about his alleged visit to a subterranean culture, peopled by beings he referred to as Deros and Teros. What he wrote was to create another legend of UFO mythology.
Briefly, it was the story of a radioactive flare from the sun around 12,000 years ago, which virtually wiped out life on Earth.